Welcome to IELTS Live Thursday. So this is a session that we have every Thursday in this group. And today I want to talk about the 5 IELTS reading tips that I posted yesterday and explain a little bit more about those. So if you are struggling a bit with IELTS reading or have any issues around IELTS reading, then this would be a good video for you to watch. Okay, I love IELTS reading. I find the passages interesting. I love the kind of forensic work that you have to do to find the answers. I enjoy skimming, scanning, looking for keywords, matching synonyms. All of those things are things that I really enjoy doing and have always, since I was a child. I've always liked sort of grammar and vocabulary and all of this. So it's no surprise that reading is probably my favorite part of IELTS. Having said that, I know that for a lot of you, it is the bit that you dread. And I have worked with many students who told me that they avoid the reading because it puts them in a panic. Now, if you can actually get to grips with the reading and the 5 things that I mentioned in my post, then I think you'll suddenly find that the reading is a lot more interesting and a lot less stressful than you're currently experiencing. But the big problem is that a lot of people put the cart before the horse. So if you look at my 5 tips here, tip number 5, right down at the bottom, is about timing and making sure you manage the time. But what many students, and in my experience, the majority of students do, is they worry about the time right from the beginning. And they put that as number 1. And that's why I say they put the cart before the horse, if you know that expression. If you do the other things, number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4, and you really work on those things first, then number 5, timing, is not going to be a problem. I'll say that again because most people don't believe me. But if you do the other things, the timing will not be a problem. Now, I wrote a post on my YouTube, I did a video on my YouTube channel called How to Complete the Reading in 50 Minutes. And it's been the most popular post. And believe you me, the students that I work one-on-one with can all complete the reading in 50, maximum 55 minutes, which will give them 5 minutes or 10 minutes just to check 1 or 2 questions that they're maybe not 100% sure of. And I can also say that I have had several students that I've worked with who have got 9 in reading. So these things do work. Okay, so let's go quickly through the 5 things, and I just want to say a little bit more about each of them and how you can practice this so that when you get to number 5, the timing, you're not even going to think about the timing because it's not going to be a problem. Okay, so first of all, keywords. Right. When I say keywords, I mean keywords in the question. Sometimes I see students who've underlined keywords in the text. I think that's a waste of time because how do you know what is going to come up in the questions? What do you know what to look for? Okay, if you see a name, if you see a date, yeah, that can be helpful. But the more you underline in the text, the harder it is to be able to find things because it becomes too messy. So the keywords I'm talking about are in the question. Now, these are the words that are going to unlock the answer. And I use that word unlock deliberately because I feel that the keywords are a key. And you will find if you're using them correctly and you've got the right place in the text, the answer will pop out at you. It is essentially unlocked for you. So what are these keywords? Okay, obvious ones are names, dates, numbers. They are all quite easy to find, percentages, that sort of thing. But there's another lot of keywords which you may overlook, and to my mind, these can make or break your answer. So they may be words like in the past, in the future. They may be words like most, or only, or many, or little, or few. Don't overlook those words. If you've seen me go through a reading, you will know that I always underline those words, because for me, they could be the difference between getting the answer correct and not getting it correct. And I would also say that when you choose your keywords in the question, you should be looking for 3, even 4 keywords, because it's where those words come together in the text that you'll find your answer. Now, this is very different from listening. With listening, I would say only have 1 keyword, because the more you have, the more confusing it is. But with the reading, you need at least 3 and sometimes 4. And then you look for those words somewhere together within a sentence. Okay, so let me go on to number 2. So number 2 is about the grammar. Now, in the question, you need to take note of whether things are in the past tense, in the present tense, whether they're singular, whether they're plural. This is not for every question, but there are some questions where making sure you've got the right subject is important. Another thing is pronouns. If I look at a sentence and I know that sentence is going to help me get the answer, and it has the word this or these, it's really important that you go back and discover what this or these refer to, because that could be important for the answer of the question. So I'm not saying you analyze the grammar of every sentence or even every question, but just be aware of anything that's specifically grammatical, like pronouns, like singulars and plurals, like tenses, so that you are actually looking at the right information. So if it says will and it's talking about the future, and you pick a question, you pick a sentence in the passage that's about the past, then you're clearly not going to get that question correct. Okay, so before I go on to number 3, let me just see if anybody's here. Hello, hello Wala, hello Shihabu, very welcome, and I hope this is going to be useful for you. Okay, so number 3 is negatives. Negatives in the question are a bit of a nightmare, because you've really got to focus and think. So what you need to do is to make the negative into a positive, because in that way it will be easier to find the information. And then once you've found the information, you then need to go back to the question and make it negative again, so that you get the right thing. Now, I'm thinking in particular here of yes, no, not given, and true, false, not given. So if it's a negative yes, no, not given, make it positive, find the information, and then come back and then make sure you remember that the question is negative. So if the answer you have found is yes, because the question is in the negative, your answer is going to be no, usually. So just be very, very careful when you've got a negative question. You just need to think a little bit more deeply about it. And that can, again, be the difference between getting it right or getting it wrong. Okay. Number 4 is skimming and scanning. Now, some people say to me, you don't need to skim, you don't need to scan. Well, I don't know how you find the information. What I've seen from students is that they randomly search around the whole passage like a headless chicken for a couple of words. If you're good at skimming and scanning, then you'll be able to locate the information a lot more quickly. So let me tell you the difference between the two. Skimming is where you're looking for an overview. So you'll go through a whole paragraph just to get the gist of the paragraph. What is it telling me? And this is particularly important in questions like headings, because in a heading you need a summary of the paragraph so that you can find out exactly what heading will fit with that information. So that is skimming. So you go very quickly through the paragraph and just get an overview of the information. So headings, vital for headings. It's also useful for where you're matching information in paragraphs. The other is scanning. Now, scanning is looking for individual words. So it's a lot more focused. And that's the kind of trick, it's not a trick really, but that's the kind of skill or technique that you need to use for things like yes, no, not given, where you're looking for an individual word. So maybe a name. So when you're matching names with information or with quotations, you need to be able to find that name quickly. That is scanning. So you again go very quickly across the text looking for those keywords, those names, those numbers. And if you do that effectively, the numbers will pop out quite easily. But you need to practice these things. So skimming is overview. You want to know, what is this paragraph telling me? Scanning is looking for individual words, individual phrases. Get them right and practice them, and it will make your reading process a lot faster and a lot more accurate. Okay. And then number 5, timing. Now, if you practice your keywords, if you practice including the grammar and the negatives, if you practice skimming and scanning, you will find that your process speeds up and you'll be able to do the reading a lot more quickly. And you should be able to finish it in 55 minutes. However, even students I've worked with a lot and who have done all this and become good at it often will get stuck on a question and will not let it go. You have to be prepared to let a question go if you can't find the answer. I do it myself. If I come across a new reading that I've never done before, if I can't find the answer of a question, I will leave it and move on. In order to complete everything in the time, you can only afford to spend 1 minute per question. So if you're going over that minute, you need to let it go. And the main reason for letting it go is that it is better to lose 1 question in passage 1 than 5 or 6 questions in passage 3. So it's just logical that let that one go because you need to finish. In order to get a high band, especially if you're looking for an 8 or a 7.5 or an 8, even a 7, but if you're looking for an 8 in your reading, you cannot afford not to answer questions. You have to answer all the questions. And the only way you can do that is by not spending too much time on any individual question. The other thing, of course, is that the questions in passage 3 are going to be more difficult to find. So if you're wasting a lot of time on passage 1, your chances of doing a good job on passage 3 are diminished. So manage your time well. If you cannot find the answer, leave it, move on to the next one. And keep doing that. And if your reading skills are good, if you've practiced your keywords, if you've learnt vocabulary, if you've practiced your skimming and scanning, there won't be many questions that you can't answer. And there are 3 times when you can come back to that question. The first time is at the end of that section. So let's say you're doing a yes, no, not given, and the second one you cannot find it. Move on to the third one and the fourth and the fifth. And when you finish them all, you may have just discovered it by accident. This happens all the time. You know, you're looking for another question and you suddenly find the one you couldn't find before. So that may happen. But have another quick look before you leave the yes, no, not givens. If you still can't find it, don't worry about it, leave it. Then at the end of that passage, so if that was in passage 1, when you finish passage 1, just have another quick look. If you still can't find it, leave it. And then the last time you can come and check is when you have those 5 minutes left at the end of the test, before you hand in your paper or before you complete your online test. And then you can go back and have another quick look for that question. And if at the end you've finished and you still can't find it, then make a guess, because you're not going to be penalized. So you have to do that. Okay. So the answer to the timing is being good at the reading skills. And the better you are at the reading skills, the more the timing issue will disappear. Believe me, I know. I've been doing this for over 25 years. I've worked with hundreds of students, and I can see this happen over and over and over. Forget the timing, focus on the questions, focus on getting the right answer. And with practice, and this is key, this will not happen overnight. You must practice, practice, practice. And then suddenly, and I can tell you what happens with my students. They say, you're giving me easy reading passages. And I say, no, I'm not. All of these readings are the same standard. Well, it's so easy now. And it's easy because they have the skills and because now they can do them easily. So when things start to get easy, it's not because they're easy, it's because your skills are better. And I promise you that if you do these 5 things and you make sure you focus a lot on the first 4, the 5th one, which is the timing, will be easily resolved. So 2 things. Don't put the cart before the horse, and don't be a headless chicken. Right, let me see if anybody's got any questions before I finish. No questions. Okay, well, I hope that that was helpful and it gave you a little bit more of an insight into those 5 things. But honestly, you know, I've had plenty of students with a band 9 in reading, and this is the process that I use and the way that I teach them. Okay, thank you for coming, Wala. And Shihabu, nice to see you here, and have a good weekend, everybody. This is the last live of this year, because next year will be Christmas and I won't be doing one. So the next live is going to be on January, let me just double check. I think it's the 2nd week. The next live will be on January the 12th. Because the 1st week is still part of the Christmas holiday. So January the 12th, the next live Thursday. So have a very happy new year, and I'll see you in January. Bye, everybody.